York. How you doing? Yes, it's good to be, well, kind of home. I grew up on over the bridge, Jersey. Yeah. Well, you got a problem with that? Fucking North. Well, I don't know if the chain gave it away, but. Well, when you're born in New Jersey, they give you this. And then when you turn 18, you put it on. It's like an event. They're like, yo, we fucking did it. I'm like, yeah. They give you a tight black t-shirt and a bottle of cologne. You're like, fucking, I'm a man. Nah, dude, I love coming back to New York. I actually live in Las Vegas now. I just moved out there. Well, I got divorced, so, you know. Yeah. Actually, I got lucky. I got divorced before the pandemic, which I fucking dodged a bullet there, you know? Imagine being quarantined with the person you're paying to get the fuck away from. And then during the divorce, I went to Florida, right? Well, it was uncomfortable because like we were separated in the same house. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where I had to move out and live in the other room. Then I'm like, fuck this. I'm just gonna go to Florida and sleep on my mother's couch. Well, I wanted to be with a woman that actually loved me. And then COVID hit, and I tell you, you couldn't have been in a better state for COVID. Yeah, Florida gave 0 fucks. Well, you watched the news. Well, they cared for like 14 days. You know, because that's what the news told us, you know. 14 days, we're gonna bend the curb or whatever it was, and then 2 years later, rest of America's in hazmat suits. After 14 days, Florida's like, okay, time's up. We're going back to eating ass in the middle of the street. Because that's what we do. And that's another reason why I went down there. Was to eat ass. But listen, I'm no doctor, but I think that's why I beat COVID 3 times. Is ass eating. I'm not gonna downplay it though. Like I can see if you're not healthy, how it could fuck you up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I would say the worst part about getting COVID is when you have to call your friends and break the news to them, like you gave an STD, right? You feel dirty. You're like, yo, dog, you might need to go see a doctor. And then they're like, for what? I'm like, I just popped for COVID. They're like, motherfucker, like, why don't you wear a mask? I'm like, you didn't wear a mask either. Don't put that shit on me. Like, how do I know you didn't give it to me, you know? It becomes the same conversation. I can see some of you have had STDs, so. No, but you know, and I also want to clear my head, you know, because when you get out of a divorce, it's weird. It's like the first month is tough, right? Because you've been with somebody for so long. You're like, you know, what am I gonna do? Then after you get clarity, you're like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, what? You know, because you think of all the money you lost, and as a man, all the pussy you turned down, right? Being a pussy. Like, oh, I'm married, like a little bitch. Like I remember when I got my divorce papers, my first thought was, damn, I should have fucked that chubby girl in Iowa. What a waste. Well, the truth of the matter is, you know, you don't fuck everything. And you're 15 years older. That's the other thing. Now, because when you get out of a long-term relationship, you start resorting back to what you did before you were married. Like I'm hanging out in nightclubs. I'm old, man. Like, I'm the old guy in the nightclub, the guy I used to make fun of when I was 25. Like, remember you were 25, there was that old motherfucker that was just standing there like, you know, it's me. You could always spot that dude back in the day because they dressed in what they wore when they were clubbing. You know, he would have like a butterfly collar on, the zip-up leather boots. He's dancing like this. You're like, look at this asshole. Like, I couldn't wear today what I wore back in the day. I was such a Guido back in the day. Like, you know, when I was clubbing in the 90s, Like I don't know, if you're over 35, remember that one asshole in the club with just a vest on? Remember that dick? Like, who goes out with just a vest? Like, what are you, Aladdin? I have my Timbs on, my work boots. So like, what is this guy gonna fly carpets or lay tile? Yeah, I'm too old to be in the club, man. It's a 20-person's place to be. You know, if you're a certain age, you don't belong there. You know, like you're old when you get mad when you can't hear people. You know what I mean? Like, like they're talking to you, like, what? What? You know, and you know, young dudes are young dudes, so they get all riled up. They got all that testosterone going. I had a young dude try and fight me. It's like, no. Yeah. First of all, you know, I'm 50. Like, even if I win, I lose. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm all old and shit. He's like, yo, you got a problem? I'm like, yeah. My shoulder hurts, the music's loud, you know? And that's the beautiful thing. You could disarm them. The minute you tell them your age, it disarms them, right? So I'm like, dude, relax. You know, I'm 50. And he's like, my dad's 47. Like, he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, it's a long story, young man. Sit down and let me tell you about it. The good news is, though, like, you know, I got old man game. Like, I know how to spit, you know? I know how to talk. Young dudes, you guys suck, man. Well, they don't have the skill because they're all on the apps, right? They just sit there and swipe. They don't even have to talk. They just go, meet up, clip. You know what I mean? Come back. It's a lot, you know, talking to girls is an art form, which is lost on the young dudes. Like, you know, like they don't know how to lie. You know what I mean? Well, as an older comic, you're always around younger comics, so like we all intermingle. And this one kid I hang with, he's always on the apps, right? And we were out one night, there was a group of girls. I'm like, yo, come wing me, man. Let's go talk to these girls. And he was just like, duh, duh, like no fucking game at all. Just went right back to the apps. Dude, are you kidding me? I couldn't even, first of all, I don't even know how to work a phone. I can't do the dating apps. They have apps for everything. They even have apps for threesomes. Yeah. I forgot what it's called. No, there's girls just waiting to be a third. You know, and I think, do you kids know how hard it was to work a threesome in the mid-90s? Do you know the skill it took to walk into a club or a bar where you didn't know anybody and convince some strong 8 to go home with some weak 6 she didn't know? With just a vest on? Do you understand? But it's bittersweet. Like, I got the old man game. Like, I know how to talk, but then, like, when you go to get the number, you're just like, you know, all old and shit. You're like, come here, baby. Let me get your number real quick. Right? You turn it to De Niro, you're like... She's like, what are you trying to take, a selfie? I'm like, here, just put your fucking number in the phone. She showed me how to save it. I'm gonna put this here, don't steal it, all right? Yeah. It sucks, man, when you get older. Your eyes don't work like they used to. Your dick, not the same dick. Hey, it's not the same dick I was working with 15 years ago. Sucks. Once you hit 40, your dick starts acting up, man. This is what you gotta look forward to, young dudes. 40, your dick starts acting up. It's not dependable anymore. Like, you don't know who's gonna show up, you know what I mean? It starts being a dick. Mine started when I never had problems when I was drinking when I was younger. When I hit 40, then I was starting to have problems when I was drinking. You know what I mean? Because when you're younger, you can metabolize anything. You know? Like when I was 25, I could drink whiskey, have sex all night, and Yeah, now I get White Claw dick. I'm like, yo, why isn't this fucking thing working? It's not even real alcohol. It said hard seltzer, you know what I mean? Because that's the thing. Every dude over 40 thinks he's 25 in his head. Until you start doing 25-year-old people shit. Like eating after 9. Or try and have sex with some young girl. Because she's waiting for you, right? And you're expecting 25-year-old dick to show up. Gone. Well, he's still there. He's just on his own time. Like he'll give you hope. He'll come out every now and then, but it's like between the hours of 1 and 3 in the afternoon. You have to be rested. Haven't eaten yet. Then he's just like, what's up? I'm like, yo, where the fuck have you been, dog? He's like, what'd I miss? I'm like, motherfucker, you missed everything. You got me in this situation. Because that's the worst when you're ready to go and you're waiting on 25-year-old dick to show up. Then over 40 dick shows up. And he's just like, hey. Is that her? Yeah, she's cute, man. You hungry? You want to go eat? Like he's all practical and shit, you know? He's like, if we leave now, we could beat traffic. I'm like, you know what? You're right, over 40 dick. What the fuck was I thinking? But thank God they got pills for that shit, man. I started taking those. I had to. I didn't know what to take in the beginning, but I went to my go-to friend. Like, you ever have that one friend that just knows everything about drugs? Yeah. I have a buddy of mine, he can't even fucking read, but he can get a Nobel Prize in chemistry. He knows everything about, like, steroids, cocaine, makes his own weed. So I went to him, I said, dude, what do you take? He's like, here, take this, right? And this guy's been doing blow since he was 12. So he gave me his dose. I almost died. I don't know what I took. I was all bloated and shit and purple. I looked like the chick from Willy Wonka that chewed the gum. That's the other thing that sucks, too, is when your support group are a bunch of fucking scumbags. All my friends are pieces of shit. I love them. But, whatever. Well, ex-felons. They own strip clubs. Well, they're Italian from New York, so, do the math. So anyways, my friends own a lot of strip clubs, getting to the point, all right? Yeah, so that was when I got out of the marriage. They were trying to get me. They're like, yo, this was the way of cheering me up. They're like, yo, come hang out at the strip club. We'll get your fucking mind off everything. And, and when you get out, everything's a good idea. Then I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. It's not. Okay? Listen, if life's going good, strip clubs are fun. But when you're fucking losing everything, it's depressing. Right? Because you're standing there and, and it just hits you at once. You're like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, I had a wife and a home and a Yorkie, right? And now you have strippers circling you because they can sense you're weak. Which, that's the stripper gift, by the way. They know. They sense it on you. They come up to you like, oh, you need cheering up. I'm like, I guess, right? You got no swag. Then they're like, come with me, Poppy. And they take you to the VIP room. By the way, that's the male walk of shame, right? When you're losing everything and they're walking you like a toddler to the VIP room. And then they sit you down and they're rubbing on you and shit, right? And you're talking to them like they actually give a fuck. You're like, so you like working here? Like it's a cash business. Are you like incorporated? Do you pay yourself? I mean, it seems pretty lucrative. And then they're like, I don't understand. Then you're like, oh, so Gemini, is that a family name? And they try to hustle you. Like this chick tried to hustle me. She's like, give me $700, I make you happy. I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna pay for sex, all right? I'm not married anymore. Plus, I can't come in one song. That's a lot of pressure. I don't even know if my shit's gonna work. I had 2 White Claws. But the first chick I hooked up with after I got married, first chick I hooked up with after my wife was a stripper, was a dancer chick. And that's when I realized that that's my lane. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't grow up normal. I tried to be normal married. I grew up in too much dysfunction. That's why I love dysfunctional women, man. Like if you have tattoos, daddy issues, how you doing? Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I would have fucked the hell out of Amber Heard. Was anybody else turned on by this crazy bitch? Hell yeah. I was watching that trial, like going, so you're gonna hit me with a bottle and shit in my bed? I usually pay extra for that. So anyways, I go back to the stripper's apartment, right? And she felt bad for me. Then I got to her place, I felt bad for her. Well, I don't know if you've ever been in a stripper apartment. I've been in a few. They're always a mess, right? They're never organized. There's like clothes everywhere. Right? They never have any furniture. Well, everything's always in storage. Like they're always living out of storage units, right? Like I walked in, there was just a mattress in the middle of the floor and then a nightstand. And then on top of the nightstand was like a picture of the kid she's been trying to get back. You know what? Fuck you people. Don't turn on me. See, this is New York. Old New York, I would have got a fucking applause break on that. Oh. Don't turn on me. I'm not the unfit mother, okay? I'm the hero in this story. That's the other thing. All these strippers live for their kids, but none of them know where their fucking kid lives. Because I'm like, what are we just gonna clip right here on the mattress? Like, isn't there a child? Yeah, but she's like, oh, he's not here. I'm like, well, where is he? In storage? She's like, I have no idea, but he's my everything, And the kid's staring at you in the picture. Then I gotta cheer her up, right? I'm like, well, I'm sure he's happy wherever he is. And he's a good-looking kid. You did well. He's got a nice head of hair. He's a handsome kid. And she's like, thank you. And they're never the same age in real life that they are in the picture. She's like, yeah, he's 25 now. You're like, I'm like, I don't think you're getting him back. I think the fucking kid moved on. I also noticed another phenomenon, okay? And it has to deal with the younger girls. Like, you girls are clipping at a high level of filth that I have never experienced in all my years of clipping, all right? And I've been clipping since 1988. It's next level shit, man. And I have a theory on it, so that must mean it's true. No, I think it's porn. I think that, porn's easy to watch now, so a lot of kids are growing up on it, It's not a process to get. Like, back in the day, you had to rent that shit. Like, now you can just log on, be weird. Nobody's gonna fucking judge you. No, it was a process. We had to rent porn. I'm going back to the VCR days. That's how long I've been watching that filth. It was a process you didn't want to go through, right? Because back in the day, kids, they had a thing called video stores. And not Blockbuster Video Family Fun. These were Skell video stores. They didn't even have a name. It just said video on it, and it was in a strip mall, right? And you'd walk in the video store, and there was a curtain. And behind the curtain was all the filth. And you had to pretend you were there for an actual movie. You're like, oh, I haven't seen Short Circuit in a while. And then you just sneak behind a curtain. And there was all these, like, fucking weird middle-aged white dudes in cargo shorts watching you, and they're watching you trying to pick a movie, which would, you just feel uncomfortable, so you just grab anything, get the fuck out, and Then you grab 2 other movies, a sandwich in between it, like so nobody can see it. And then to check out, you play with the candy till the dude's available. Well, you don't want to bring it to the girl, you know? I'm saying I'm a fucking gentleman, you know what I'm saying? So you give it to the guy, and then he's like, okay, well, Police Academy 4, boop. Anal cum guzzling whores 8. Rocky 3. Then you're like, I like all the sequels. You know what I mean? Then you would go home, and you'd wait for your mom to leave, then you'd stick it in the VCR, and then you beat yourself up. Now, the other thing, too, is your friends would rent videos, too, as well, so right? So now you have 3 days to return it. So you would exchange videos with your friends, but that used to suck if they didn't rewind it, because now you saw where they came, and it just ruined the whole movie. You're like, I can't watch this scene. So now, there was this one chick I was dating for a while, young girl, but fucking next level crazy. All right, well, she was one of those nerd girls that like dress up like superheroes or whatever and go to San Diego, you know what I mean? Right? Because she was all into that fantasy shit, the fucking, the Harry the Wizard kid. You know what I'm talking about? She was all, you know the kid with the thing on his head? Dude, I went to her apartment, she was fucking, there was pictures of her dressed as a wizard and shit. And she had tattoos of like whatever, the fucking Hagendorts or whatever it is. And I knew she was nuts, right? Because I would choke her, but she would just stare at me like, all dead-eyed, right? Then I'm like, yeah, you like this? She's just like I knew she'd seen some shit, right? So I asked her, I said, you know, what are you into? Like, what do you want me to do? And she's like, you really want to know? Then I'm like, yeah. She's like, I want you to hold me down and hit me and take it. And I'm thinking, she basically wanted me to commit a felony. And I told her, I said, I don't think I could do that. I mean, I can. I don't know if I want to. Not today's day and age, you know what I mean? Like, you know, she can say anything. Like I don't want to go to jail because fucking Courtney can't come like a normal person. By the way, that's the fundamental difference between men and women. This is why women are smarter, because you operate more cautiously. Like, you might meet a guy, he might be into that, but you don't really know him. He might be a red flag, but you'll be like, you know what? That sounds fun, but let me get to know you, and maybe we can play later, you know, explore that world. As a man, you're like, all right, she could say anything. No one will believe me. I could lose a job, go to jail. But yeah, we can make this work. So I told her, I said, listen, Courtney, if you want me to do all that, then you need to sign this paper, right? And I drew up a consent form, and we're gonna do it in a public place, right? No, for real, I'm not gonna do it at my house. She can fucking say anything. I made her sign it, you know what I mean? Oh, God. So I took her to a cafe, and I filmed it. I'm dead serious. I was like, all right, I'm sitting here with Courtney. I'm like, say hi, Courtney. She's like, hi. I'm like, all right, Courtney's into some fucked up shit. I said, all right, Courtney, first of all, you're not here under duress, right? You're here under your own recognizance. And she's like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, I don't know what that means either, Courtney. I watch a lot of Law and Order type shows. I said, it means I'm not making you do this. And she's like, absolutely not. I said, okay. Now tell the camera what it is you want me to do and be specific. And she's like, I want you to beat the shit out of me. I get off on bruises. And then I'm like, okay. You gotta be more specific. Now, beat you up, like what are we talking? Like Rocky 1, where you end up in the hospital? Or like Rocky 4, where you're like all fucked up and you can't talk anymore? And she's like, I've never seen Rocky. Then I'm like, you saw the Harry the Wizards and you never saw Rocky. I'm like, I'm really gonna beat the shit out of you for that one, Courtney. I said, give me a movie, tell me a movie. And she told me the Shades of Grey. That's what she was into, which a lot of women are into, even older ones, you know. They are. I mean, it was a #1 book and movie for a reason, and it wasn't dudes going to see that shit. But let's be honest. If the guy doesn't have $500 million, it's a different movie. Now it's on Lifetime. Like, this guy was some fucking broke busboy beating bitches up in the basement. Now he's a predator. But if he has $500 million, like, ooh, that's hot, that's sexy. It's not the money, it's the power dynamic. Like, fuck out of here. So anyways, this is what she wanted me to do. She wanted me to build in my garage a wooden X, right? And tie her to it. And now I'm thinking, like, I gotta go to Home Depot now to fuck? So I'm buying 2x4s and shit. Here's the other thing, when you're buying lumber at Home Depot, they don't leave you alone. They come up to you like, hey, pal, what kind of project are you working on? I'm like, you know how to build a wooden X? He's like, Courtney's coming over. I'm like, oh, we know her. Here, follow me. You might want to grab some bike locks and change. She's really into that. So anyways, I hired a couple Mexicans. They built it for me. So I have her tied up in the garage, right? And it was hot. And I don't mean like sexy hot, like summertime. I was sweating and shit, you know, and she's sitting there. She's like, you gonna hit me, motherfucker? I'm like, what are you, a demon? Just wanna buy you ice cream. She's like, come on, hit me. So I'm like, here. Psh. She's like, oh, you hit like a bitch. That's why your wife left you. Then I went, fuck you. I beat the shit out of Courtney. Consensually. But I'd have fucking never seen Rocky. I hit her for every Rocky she missed. Except for 5. We could all miss 5. That Tommy Gunn shit was garbage. But she caught 2 for Creed. Because it was acceptable in the franchise. Then I just cut her down. It was weird. I'm like, go home. Well, now I start lecturing her. You know what, Courtney? You need to reassess your decisions in life. Just grab your wizard shit and get the fuck out. Then you sit there and you're like, what am I doing, man? Well, see, listen, when you get married, nobody gets married and plans on getting divorced, okay? Especially dudes. We don't even want to get married, right? We don't think about it. We don't fantasize. Like, we're not little boys going, I wonder what my wife's gonna look like. Like, we don't fucking care. We just go through life clipping, and then one day you meet a girl, and it might be the girl, you might like her, and then you start thinking to yourself, is this the one? You know what I mean? And then you start weighing out risk versus reward, and so that's why when we ask you to marry us, we really thought it through. And also know we really wanted to marry you. Or you were pregnant, one or the other. You know? And he did the right thing, you know what I mean? So there's a lot expected of us in marriage, right? So before we ask you to marry us, we have a list, a very serious list. I don't even know if women have a list, and if you do, I'm willing to compare and contrast the seriousness of the list. All right? So number 1, before a man asks you to marry him, he asks himself right out the gate, is this the woman you die for, right? Like if the house is on fire, is this the one you're gonna run in and save? If there's an intruder in the house, you're gonna put her in the closet as you tackle that motherfucker, get your head blown off, right? So yeah, is that on your list, ladies? Fuck no. You know what's number 1 on your list? Well, if he dies, does he have life insurance to take care of the family? You should, that's the way it should be, yes. That's our job. to protect and die. That's what we do. We live to die. Plus, you know good and well, if the house was on fire and you made it out and he didn't, and he's upstairs screaming like a little bitch, you're gonna lose a little respect for him. All right? If you're on the lawn and he's upstairs going, somebody help! You'll be like, ew, how did I get out before him? This guy's got no survival skills. He's like, help, it burns! Then you start asking other dudes to run in there and go get him. You're like, excuse me, sir, could you run in there and go get this fucking idiot? And he's like, help! And then you start wifing out. You're like, you know what? I told you to change the batteries in the smoke detector, but you didn't want to listen. And he's like, fuck it, let me burn. And he fucking dies. And you get a check. Which leads us to number 2 on the list. We ask ourselves as men, is this the woman you want to give everything to, right? Not in divorce, but in life, right? To provide, right? And that's what we want to do. We love to work, right? I mean, our fantasy is to get that job where you take care of everybody, right? Take the stress on life. We statistically die 5 years before you, right? And again, every man's fantasy to get that one job where you take care of everybody. Because men love to work. And I'm not saying women don't like to work. But according to Google, almost 50% of you would opt out if given a choice. Plus, you know, too, when you see women brag about being independent, it kind of lets you know that how you view us, you know? It's always about provisions. Like, you ever see a woman like, I'm an independent woman. I pay my own bills. I got my own car. I got my own rent. Well, yeah, you're an adult. Why are you bragging about being an adult? Then you go to number 3 on the list, right? It's a short list. It's a man's list. This is all it is. You ask yourselves, is this the last girl you're ever gonna clip? That's it. You're done. No more vagine. No, for real, no more vagine. It's done. You gotta retire your dick. It's over. Then you're like, so wait a minute. So dying isn't good enough. That can't cancel that out. Okay. And we make that sacrifice. We retire our dicks. And you're hanging in the rafters, right? And you call a press conference. You start thinking all those strong 5s and weak 6s you've been clipping throughout your career. Then the next thing you know, you're fucking 50, sleeping on your mother's couch. Hanging out in strip clubs, negotiating hand jobs in VIP rooms. With 22-year-old strippers with 25-year-old kids. Going, how the fuck did I get here? But I would do it again. I would get married again. I would marry her again, even if I knew it wasn't gonna fucking work out. Plus the fact, women, you do make us better people. You know, like she rubbed off on me. I was a fucking savage before I got married. And I was telling you, married men die 5 years before you, but single men die 7 years on the average. Because there's no woman there going, what the fuck are you doing, you idiot? If we're left to our own devices, like me, man. Like, I love to gamble, man. I love to gamble. Like, I love it so much I gave it up for Lent. All right? But I, you know, being around her made me a better person. So I was playing craps at Mandalay Bay. That's my game, you know. And I win. I don't lose. Right? And I mean, I'm on a roll, man. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of hookers in Vegas, right? So as I'm playing, I see this girl staring at me at the end of the table. And obviously she's working, but she looked really young. Right? And now, you know, as I'm looking at her going, what is this girl doing? Like, you know, she's a young girl. So I see her eyeing me. I grab my winnings and I go to the bar because I figured she couldn't follow me. So she follows me to the bar, right? So she puts up next to me, like ponies up, and then I look at her, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, you know, and she's like, you know what I'm doing. I said, well, first of all, how old are you? She goes, I'm 21. I'm like, get out of here. Let me see your license, right? And it was a real license. It wasn't a fugazi, okay? Well, I used to make them, right? But then I start lecturing her, right? I'm like, what do you know? She had a kid, obviously. Right? I'm like, what are you doing? You're too young to do this. You got to rethink everything because there's some things in life you can't take back. But then I was like, you know, well, how much do you charge? And she said 500. And I'm like, that's it? So I had a chip. And I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you this chip. Go home. Think about everything, right? And she's like, I make 515 minutes. And I'm like, well, fuck you then, right? So I grab my stuff. I start walking out. And then a dude grabs me. It was a cop. And he's like, stay right there. And I'm like, dude, I didn't do anything, man, right? And then she starts walking over. And then I'm like, oh, shit, right? And so she walks over and she hands me a card. She was a cop, right? Then I'm like, you're a cop? And I'm like, how old are you? She's like 29. I'm like, oh, you look good for your age, you know? But she was like, you know, that's one of the sweetest things any guy's ever done for me, you know, when I've been on Vice for this many years. And I was this close. To asking you to pee on me. The moral of the story is, I didn't go to jail, and I got a phone number. But she had to put it in the phone for me, because, you know. But I'm more centered now. I'm not all over the place, you know. When I first got out, I was everywhere. Like young girls, old. I'm 35 and up. That's the age I'm at, you know. Because it's a good age. Women, you're young enough to have fun, but you're also old enough to where we could eat Raisin Bran and go to bed. And that's always a strong night. Listen, that's why I tell people, if you're in a long-term relationship, just stay. Where are you gonna go? Right? You're gonna end up in a long one again. It's gonna run stale. Because that's why everybody thinks that it's a red flag. Like when you're with somebody for a while, they think it's a red flag that the fire's gone. Of course it's gone. All right? You can never get that back. Because it's always fun in the beginning. It's new, right? It's exciting. We clip all the time. Right? You know, when you're first dating, you'll be at a house party, you pull her in the bathroom, clip her on the sink. Right? You both walk out, all fucking suspect, like, you know? Or you'll be driving home, and she'll take your route out for no reason and start blazing you up, like a strong, independent woman. And you're like, yo, this girl's great, man, right? And we can't wait to hang out. All we do is spend all of our free time together, and we're sleeping at each other's places, and then finally you're like, you know what, let's move in together. And we move in together, but then that's when we become human. That's when we become vulnerable. We see each other at our worst. Like women, you'll come home and see your fat fucking husband sleeping on the couch with his belly out, snoring, and then you're like, ew, who is that, right? Or ladies will wake up next to you and we see what you really look like, right? Your face is all swollen, your breath is stank. And you're like, who is that? Or women, you'll do the laundry and discover our boxer shorts for the first time with our trademarks in it, and you're like, what? How old is he? He doesn't know how to wipe his ass? This is disgusting. Or we'll do the laundry and discover whatever the fuck is going on in your underwear. Remember that first discovery? You're like, what is that? Like, did she blow her nose in this fucking thing? Was she on Nickelodeon and didn't know the answers? You ever smell it? And you're like, it doesn't really stink. You're fucking playing with it, it sticks on the wall. it's hard. It's hard to get the fire back, man, you know? Like, I can't tell you how many romantic evenings me and my ex-wife planned that we would end up ruining just by, like, overeating or, you know, it's such a couple thing to do. Like, I remember one time I was on the road for, like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. And I realized, I'm like, we hadn't clipped in, like, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, right? So I'm home that weekend. I'm like, babe, you know, we haven't clipped in, like, 2 weeks. She's like, oh, my God, you're right. Then I'm like, well, listen, I'm home tonight. Let's, you know, this weekend, let's get fucking stupid. She's like, okay. I'm like, I'll make a reservation at the new Italian restaurant that just opened up. We'll have a nice romantic dinner, right? We'll go to a club maybe later. We'll get hammered, come back, fuck like savages. She's like... And I'm like, here's my credit card. Go shop and get yourself a nice outfit. Make yourself presentable the way daddy likes it. She's like... Then they go shopping, right? They buy that whore dress, right? And it's for you. The titties are out, ass, everything, right? You're opening the car door, staring at her ass. You get in the car, you're driving to the restaurant, you're still flirting with her. You're like, babe, I forgot how hot you are. She's like... Then I'm like, come here, let me see what you got going on, right? You start playing with her, and she's like... I'm like, hey, you're not wearing any underwear. You're a dirty little girl. She's like, I'm filthy. I'm like, let me see your titties, right? You try to play with her titties. She's like, stop, you're gonna ruin the dress. Then I'm like, come here, baby. You grab her by her hair. And you're like, you fucking filthy bitch. I feel you judging again. Listen. Some couples are into that, okay? You can stick to your little bitch-ass missionary, whatever the fuck you do. So now you get to the restaurant, right? You order a bottle of wine. You're still flirting with her. You're like, babe, when I get you home, I'm gonna beat the shit out of your pussy. She's like, yeah, it needs to get beat up. I said, yeah. I'm gonna destroy your vagine. She's like, my vagine needs to get destroyed. I said, yeah, it does. She's like, you know what I'm gonna do to you? I'm like, what are you gonna do to me? And then they bring the bread. And then right away, you're both like, oh shit, is that fresh bread? And, and you smell the bread, right? It just came out of the oven. You're like, babe, I think this just came out of the oven. And you check the temperature with the back of your hand. You're like, babe, we gotta have a slice. We can't waste this, it's a sin, right? You call the server over, like, excuse me, sir, can I get a little gravy, a little marinara, dip the bread in? Fucking 3 loaves later, we power through the appetizers. Barely finished the entrees, 2 bites of the dessert, and now we're driving home, right? We're skipping the club, and we're both quiet, right? Because we both have to shit. Right? Hey, here's the thing. I don't know if you guys know this, but women, you can hold your shit in better than us. Google it, for real. Because when you're pregnant, you hold more shit, and I think your assholes are closer or something. I don't want to confuse you people with my medical terms. No, so we don't know. Like, you're just sitting there all cute. We have no idea you have to go. Because men suck, right? You're perched up, you're sweating. It's turtling, it's trying to get out. You're like, why the fuck did I eat all that butter? Then the Viagra starts kicking in, your dick starts getting harder. You're like, not now, man! Then you're like, how the fuck do I get out of this? And the only way we know, ladies, that you have to go to the bathroom is your stomach will rat you out. Right? It makes that weird, you ever that weird, like, diarrhea death gurgle? It's like an inside fart. I don't even know what's going on. Like, they just sit there all cute, then you just hear, like... And women are like, that's weird. I don't know what that was. And we're like, oh, thank God she's got a shit too, right? Then as soon as you pull in the garage, she gets out right away. She's like, I'm gonna go freshen up in the guest bathroom. And as soon as she closes the door, you just hear her crop dust in the living room. And then that's my cue to crop dust the garage. But I don't want the farts to follow me in the house. I don't know if anybody has this problem. Like, my farts are codependent. So what I do is I develop this technique. I cut the tail. You can use it. So what I'll do is I'll drop ass, right? I'll be like, and then I just fucking spin around real quick and I back in. Listen, it works. Well, it confuses the fart, right? Because the fart comes out, he's like, where is he? And by that time, you got him in a tizzy, right? Then as soon as I get in the house, I know she's doing her thing in the guest bathroom because I can hear the sink on, which I think that's cute, too. I just picture you ladies just sitting there pinching one out with the sink on, like. By the way, it doesn't work. We hear everything. It just sounds like you're lighting fireworks with the fucking sink on. Then I go in our bathroom, I blow that up, you know, and then I shower, because I always shower after I shit, because I'm a clean gentleman. I do, man. I get my nails buffed, trim, everything, too, you know. I get out of the shower, do a couple curls, get a nice pump, put the cologne on. And I know it's gonna be a while because I still hear the sink on, so I lay in bed and I wait for her. And then I start falling asleep because I'm full, you know, and you just start nodding off. And I don't know how long I've been sleeping, but I wake up because I feel her in the doorway. Or she's ready to go, got the lingerie on, but she has a look on her face like she just went to war. Right? She's staring at you like, you know, like, I'm only doing this for you. Then you're like, baby, do me a favor, take that off. We're not gonna have sex tonight. Who knows what happens if we get on top of each other? And she's like, thank God. Then they get comfortable, put your t-shirt on, lay down next to you in bed, and now you're both out of breath from eating and shitting. And then you start talking about the meal. You're like, babe, how good was that oregano tonight, huh? She's like, it was amazing. I can't believe that restaurant opened down the street from us. That's gonna be our new place. I'm like, yeah, it's a great place. And she's like, you know who'd like it is your mom. Like, when she comes to town, we should take her there. And you're connected. You're family. You're one. It's a beautiful moment. So you're staring at each other and you're like, sweetheart. She's like, what? I'm like, did you bring home any of that bread? You know I did. And then you reheat everything and you fucking eat again. You cherish those moments, okay? It's 10 times better than beating up a wizard in your garage. I wanted what my grandparents had, man. You know, I was very fortunate that my grandparents were the World War II generation, because they were married for like 60 years, you know. They stayed together. That generation, they just stuck it out. I feel bad for the young people that you never really got to experience them, you know. They look like shit back then, though. Maybe, right? Maybe that's why. You ever notice how fucked up people look back then? Right? Everybody looked old as fuck, man. Right? Like my family came in the 30s. You know, anybody have those immigrant photos on your wall? Everybody's all fucked up looking. Like they're all like. And you're like, how old's Nanny in this picture? My mom's like 19. You're like, why does she have gray hair? She looks like Ric Flair. See, grandmas look good today. I'd clip a grandma today. You know what I mean? You know, they got fake titties, yoga pants. Our grandmas didn't look like that. They had one outfit and one shape. And our grandfathers, my grandfather, dude, those guys were men, man. I mean, they fought in wars. They were always in suits. There's not a picture of my grandfather not in a suit. My favorite picture, he's in a triple-breasted white suit, a fedora and a cigar, and he's like fucking 14. He's like a 14-year-old man, and his jerk-off grandson is on stage with a fucking shiny chain and a black t-shirt. He would stab me. That's the other thing, too. Every old guy of that generation had killed somebody. in my family fucking took a life, whether it was in the war or in the streets. They were very stoic men. I remember my grandfather, like, he knew he was gonna die, but he wasn't sick. I don't know, it was weird. He's like, I guess the shot clock went off. I don't know. But he called me in the bedroom one time. He's like, get in here. And he goes, sit down. And he's like, look, I don't think I'm gonna be around much longer. And I'm like, why? You ain't going anywhere. He's like, shut the fuck up and listen. You gotta promise me, if something happens to me, or when I go, you take care of your grandmother and your mother. I said, absolutely. Then he opened the drawer and took out a Ruger 9mm. And he said, if anybody fucks with your mother, your grandmother, you use this gun, okay? I took it off a dead Nazi. They can't trace it. I'm like, you know I'm 10, right? Like, you know I'm gonna show this and point this at everybody I know. And I did take care of my grandmother. You know, she lived at 97. My grandfather obviously died before her, you know. And I also figured out why we died. We're tired of getting bitched at. And he just tapped out. He's like, fuck this, I'm out. Well, I felt bad for him, man, because, you know, he cheated on her when they were younger, and she took him back, and it never went away. They fucking up, poor guy. Because he was, you know, he just would sit in a chair all day. He never wanted to do anything. My grandmother had all this energy. She's like, let's go to the movies. He's like, I don't feel like going to the movies. She's like, well, I didn't feel like you fucking that flapper back in 1930s. He's like, God damn it. Get your Shaw. You know, I was fighting overseas. Doesn't that count for anything? And they were frugal, right? Because they were all immigrants, man. They never threw anything out, you know. My grandma would wash Ziploc bags. Anybody's grandma do that shit? Right? They would wash them and then turn them inside out to dry. Dude, I bought her Ziploc bags for the goof for Christmas, right? For the laugh. You would have thought I got her a fucking car. She's showing it. Ooh, look what he bought. And I'm like, it's a joke. Fucking any food container became Tupperware. My grandma would send you home with a Cool Whip container with meatballs. And then people would return it. They wouldn't even throw it away. Right? Like, you come back, there's a Cool Whip container empty with a note on the stoop, you know, thanks for the meatballs, they were delicious. And those things last, man. I don't know how long we had one in our family, but, and you only, well, they would wash it, right? First of all, it's pink inside, it's stained, you can't get the stain out. But it's been washed so much, it's all white. There's just a little blue left that lets you know it was a Cool Whip container. I bought her a dishwasher, because she would always wash dishes by hand, you know? And I said, Nanny, what are you doing? So I started making little money. I bought her a dishwasher. She's like, I don't need it. And she never used it. Well, she did, but for, like, storage. I remember I started washing dishes one time. I'm like, Nanny, use the dishwasher. I open the dishwasher, there's bread in there, shopping bags. But she lived a long time because we never forgot about her, you know? And if your grandma's around, don't forget about them, all right? When you're gonna put them in a home, you fucking pagan, godless animal. I'd pick her up once a week, at least. And by the way, they look forward to it. If your grandma is going to lunch, they dress up for it. You ever see them dress up in like that cheap-ass grandma going out shit they think looks nice? Right? Everything's just polyester. It's like one outfit, and it's itchy. Old people love itchy shit, man. My grandma had this blanket she tried to cover you with. It was awful. You're like, get it off me, right? It was so bad that me and my little brother, we would play Madden, and if you lost, you had to wrap yourself in the fucking itchy blanket. But if you're gonna take her to lunch, you gotta get there early, okay? Because they don't answer the door. Because the TV's loud and shit. You know, like you're banging on the door. You're like, Nanny, open the door. All you hear is, this week on the Hallmark Network. And then you gotta break in, and she's sitting in the chair wrapped in the itchy blanket. She's like, ooh, I didn't hear you come in. I'm like, yeah, the goddamn TV's loud. Cut it off. Come on, let's go to lunch. You could take him anywhere. You know, they don't care. They like all chains, like little chains and shit. Like Friendlies or Denny's, you know. But like, I'd take her to a nice place to her. I'd be like, hey, Nanny, I'm gonna take you to the Cheesecake Factory. She's like, ooh, fancy. And they use old lady terms you don't hear anymore. She's like, let me put my face on, right? And then she goes in the other room. That means makeup. Then they come out 2 minutes later, just fucking red everywhere on the lips. They put their grandma jewelry on, right? Shit they don't make anymore, like a brooch. Like, she came out, she had this ruby-crusted spider on her shoulder. I'm like, Nanny, what the fuck is on your shoulder? She's like, isn't it beautiful? Your grandfather gave this to me after he fucked that whore back in 19... I'm like, Nanny, you gotta let it go. Everybody's dead. And they put their grandma perfume on. That shit's strong. You ever smell grandma perfume? That Avon shit, whatever they wore? It like burns your nose. I'm like, why is my nose burning and smelling roses at the same time? Not my grandfather. He had an old man scent. All right, all the old dudes back then smelled like the same thing. It was like Brute, Scotch, cigars, and gasoline. He always smelled like gasoline, man. He was always fixing shit. Little side story in this story. He used to clean his tools with gasoline, right? And smoke a cigar at the same time. And never blew himself up. Then they grabbed their little grandma purse, that big-ass fake leather white grandma purse, right? All their grandma shit's in there. But it ain't for them, it's for you, right? Like in case you get a headache. They have those aspirins. I don't know if you remember those aspirins in the canister. You know, the thing you'd sell coke in? I used to make my grandmother save them for me. She'd give them to me. She'd say, here you go, what are you using these for? I'm like, don't worry about it, Nanny. Just, you know, that's how I got your dishwasher. Just don't worry about it. They have individual Kleenex boxes. Brand new, unopened, ready, waiting for you to sniff. Right? The clear package. You ever see those? And by the way, just sniff. They live for that moment. Right? Just, even if you don't have a cold, just go. They're like, do you have a cold? I'm like, yeah. She's like, here, take this. I got 78 more. Not my grandfather. He had a handkerchief. Now, young dudes, you may not know this, but old dudes used to walk around with a rag of snot in their pocket for like 2 weeks. It was fucking disgusting. You would never want to sniff in front of them. Because they'll be like, here, wipe your face, and they throw it at you. You gotta move, it'll cut your cheek. It's got oil on it. And they have their hard candies. Grandmas love hard candy. I don't know at what age, women, you start hoarding hard candy. I'm thinking it's 75 maybe, where you just start collecting hard candies. And she's offering you candy, all the shitty ones. You know, I got a Werther's, you want a Werther's? I'm like, nah, Nanny, I'm good. Neckos, you like Neckos? I'm like, I don't even know what that is, Nanny. I got the light blue ones in the clear wrapper that tastes like mouthwash. You're like, what are you, Willy Wonka? How much candy you got? I got the little strawberry ones that look like strawberries in the strawberry wrapper. And you're like, I'll take those, you know. Then you get to the restaurant, she's walking all slow. They're all little and shit, you know. She's just shuffling. She's got eight sweaters on. She's just shuffling, saying hi to everybody. Oh, hey, how are ya? You know. Then you sit them down, you push them in the chair, and I give her the menu. I'm like, Nanny, get whatever you want. She's like, ooh, somebody won the lottery. And it doesn't cost much to feed them, okay? They don't eat shit. It's like $6. Well, they always get the special, right? It's like a half a sandwich and a soup, and they won't even finish that. She's like, can I get this to go? I'm like, really, Nanny? You're taking home a half of a sandwich? And I'll buy you a new one. She's like, no, it's plenty. And it is. It'll last her all week. Right? They'll break the sandwich out, nibble on it, and put it back in the dishwasher. Then I would sit there and listen to her stories, man. And they repeat themselves, so it's like Groundhog Day. You know, it's all the same stories, how she grew up, came here from Italy, grew up in Hell's Kitchen, and, you know, and you're just sitting there going, yeah, you know, and I would do anything to hear those stories again, you know, and she looks at me, she goes, you know, you're such a good grandson. I'm like, yeah, fuck the other two. Now you get the check, and she's like, are we gonna leave? I'm like, yeah. We're gonna leave? I'm like, yeah. We're gonna go home? I'm like, what are you, fucking Rain Man? Yeah, we're gonna go. And she's like, okay. And then she starts stealing everything. This little old lady that goes to church during the week breaks out the Ziploc bag and starts housing everything, right? All the gray area shit, like sugar caddies, salt and pepper shakers, cracker. And now you gotta switch gears. I gotta go from good grandson to lookout, right? I'm like, Nanny, what are you doing? All right, hurry up, right? And you're like, yo, eat your fucking soup and mind your business. This shit ain't got nothing to do with you, right? Then I gotta pull the car around. And I got the doors open so she can get away, and she's waddling out. You hear the silverware, and right before she leaves, she grabs the bowl of hard candy in the front and then re-ups. And you're happy because they're the root beer barrels. They're just as good as the strawberry ones. All right, let me wrap this up. No, don't worry, it'll be the Italian 20-minute goodbye. I'll be following you to the car with the Cool Whip container and the meatball still talking. So let me tell you more about my lip dick. But listen, first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming out and being adults, all right? Nobody got mad. Well, here's a beautiful thing about stand-up, which a lot of people don't realize, okay? The whole art form is based on pain, right? And that's what it is, right? Like, if you ever notice the theater mass, they're laughing and crying. And there's a reason for that, because the laughter comes from the crying. So to everybody in here, I hope that all of my pain was the reason for your laughter. And I hope the laughter didn't cause you any pain. Hey, thank you guys so much.